is everybody doing? My goodness, I have been away for a little while, but I'm back, and I'm here for another amazing episode for the Who Am I Talk. I've got an exciting guest this evening. Her name is Kezia Luckett. She's a positive psychiatrist, and she's absolutely out of this world. An international best-selling author. Really excited to speak with her this evening about her story, her journey, her book releases, international best-selling books, I must add. Very excited to join her today, and I'm really excited. So I think she's waiting for me to request her. So I'm just going to wait a second, get more and more people to join. And how have you guys been? What's been going on? It's been a very busy few months for me. I did 19 episodes of the Who Am I Talk and was exhausted. Took some time out, and now I'm back with some really exciting guests. The one that I'm going to introduce very shortly, Miss Kezia Luckett. She's amazing, got an amazing story to share. So I just want to wait for more people to join. It's a beautiful evening actually in the UK, so people might be out and about, but you'll get to see this recorded episode on my channel. So I'm just taking a bit of time. How's everyone doing? It's been a little while. It feels really strange. It's my first time in a while on the lives. So I'm very excited to share with you this beautiful guest. And I think I'm about now going to bring her in. Okay? Take care. Any minute now. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. I can't complain. And like you say, it's a beautiful evening.
It's a fantastic evening. It's always the way, isn't it? The one day you're in is the day is even lovely because it's been raining. It was trying to cool down because the weather was just... How did you survive the
Well,
heat?
we've been living in Barcelona for the last 2 years. So for me, it was like a little bit of home. I was just like, oh, brilliant.
Wow.
Bring it on.
Of course.
So I wasn't best pleased when it started raining.
Yes, because it took away. But now the sun's out. I think the weather's not going to be too bad over the next few weeks. I think if it stays like this is nice. It was unbearable when we had the heat wave. There was nowhere to go, was there? Nowhere to go.
Well, I think it depends if you love it or not. I love it.
Yeah.
Saying that, there were some times that it was a little bit warm, but no, it was great.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me. I'm not sure if you know much about this episode. I've 19 episodes down for the Who Am I Talk. That's crazy. Wow. I was thinking about the other day. Isn't that crazy?
Like, and I know how much effort it takes to put these things on. So 19 episodes is phenomenal.
Yeah. So I was like thinking, shall I take some time? And I think I deserved it after that period. So I kind of took a step back and just been really looking after myself and just taking one day as it comes. So I'm back now. I've got some amazing guests. You are one of them. I'm very happy to have you on the show.
I'm happy to be here.
You're very welcome. And I'll let you introduce yourself. You are amazing. Am I saying this right? Kezia Luckett?
No, but right. Nobody gets it right. So I will forgive you. I will forgive. It's Kezia. Kezia.
Interesting. See, I wasn't sure. I was sitting there, Kezia. Okay. So Kezia, that's beautiful. Tell me about your name. That's unusual.
Well, it's in the Bible with a H on the end, Kezia, but my parents found it in a graveyard, believe it or not, in Cornwall. There was a mother, grandmother and daughter all with the same name, and it means sweetly scented cinnamon stick, and they thought that was a good name.
Oh, wow, interesting. And it's sweet, so the sweet you're taking more than anything, I would say, because I'm sure you're...
Of course.
Oh, that's amazing. So no, thank you so much for joining me today. Really excited to have you as a guest. And you've got an amazing story and you do amazing things. And I think in this season, more than ever, we've gone through so much. I mean, this whole year has been a year of change, of discovery, of pain, of everything. And I think more than ever, this is a time where people have really stepped into themselves to find out who they are and what they want to be. We had more time than ever to be home and reflect and think. There was fear, there was all sorts of things going through. But I think at the end of this, we're never going to be the same, in a good way.
Yes.
And I think what you do will be adding value to people who are searching, because, you know, everyone was running the rat race on the trains, not seeing their family, not able to have what is normal to interact. And now they're working from home, most people, they've really understood what's going on with their children and homeschooling, and it's made them actually stop in their tracks and go, who am I? And what am I actually doing? And what is life really about? You know, so your story, I would love to hear how you got into this industry and how you've changed all these people's lives. That's some positive things I've seen, testimonies.
Well, really, I suppose it started with a CD. I'll be totally honest with you. It started with an audio CD. I was working in pharmaceuticals, in cardiology, and I was traveling a lot around the countryside in a car. And I'd just come back from maternity leave, and my boss gave me a copy of The Secret. Now, I hadn't heard of personal development. I didn't know anything about it. And I was driving down to Southampton, and I had a 2-3 hour journey, and I put it on, and probably within an hour of being on the road, I ended up pulling over, and I was just like, oh my goodness, there's this whole world of possibility out there that I had no idea of whatsoever. And it was like somebody had turned on the Technicolor on the brightness of the world, and it really set me on a quest. And the first thing that happened was I really liked one of the gentlemen, John Assaraf, in there, and I went out and bought his book, The Answer, and part of that was coming up with, what is it that you truly want to do in life? And like I said, just come back from maternity leave. I'd been incapacitated with my son because I had SPD, where my pelvis had come apart, so I was in agony. No, absolutely excruciatingly painful. And it made me realize that if I was like that, there must have been other women out there that were the same. And this started the first business, which was a female-based concierge business, helping women. And originally I set it up for women that had just given birth, but before we knew it, we were inundated with corporate women going, help, I need some help to juggle the work-life balance, you know, because we all have this image that we want to uphold. They're doing really well in their business, but they also want to be perceived as doing really well at home and being the best mom and, you know, this superhero kind of out there. And so I had a team of 35 women that would come in, and they would do everything from cooking, cleaning, food shopping, picking up children, running them to after school clubs. And it was absolutely amazing until I burnt out. I totally and utterly burnt out. And that really was the kind of start of me going, do you know what, there has to be more to life than this. I thought what I wanted was to run my own business. But I just exchanged one lot of shackles for another. Like I had a big team. We covered 5 different counties. And through a lot of soul searching, I kind of fell into what I'm doing now. I went for a walk on Boxing Day 2016, and can have what only can be described as a vision, where I was seeing pictures, I was hearing voices, and I hurried home, sat in front of the computer, started typing away, and at the end of an hour I had the kind of, I suppose, the blueprint of creating a movement called Women of Contribution, and also a book called the Pay It Forward series, Notes to My Younger Self, because the questions that were being asked of me is, would you change anything if you could go back in time knowing what you know now? And I was just interested to explore that. And that's really where the book started, and, you know, my journey that I'm on now started.
That's amazing. And isn't it amazing, like from The Secret, that gave you epiphany, and then you had a moment, and I realized you find who you are through stillness and through you being on your own and in a deeper level of thought. I believe that's what happens. I think we always try to navigate what we're doing in noise. And I think the only time, as they say, God speaks to you is in stillness. And then when you get that revelation, it is so powerful, then your life is never the same again. Am I right?
No.
And that's what happened, isn't it?
I mean, most definitely. And then from then, it was a series of events, and, you know, things are put into your life at the right time, the right people. Within 4 months, I was flying to San Diego to be filmed for a documentary series called Awakening Giants, which was all about change makers. Our first foreword that was written for the book was written by Marie Diamond from The Secret. We also had Marcy Shimoff. We also had Marcy Shimoff from The Secret, right, for our third book. And, you know, all of these things started happening, that it was just divine, absolute divine intervention.
And you said something very powerful. It's all about that positive mindset that before you know it, it starts to literally connect the dots, isn't it? So one thing leads to another, then a person and an opportunity. And then you get overwhelmed because you're like, I can't believe I'm here. And then it happens again and again and again. Before you know it, all the things you've been thinking is actually manifesting itself. And people don't understand how powerful, and from a spiritual perspective, when you speak things into your life, and how positive affirmations of positivity can change and actually start directing your steps in your life. Because you read The Secret, and then your contributor is from the what?
Two of the women from The Secret. And I mean, like you say, when you kind of speak it into to action. So we knew we were going to be moving to Barcelona, and I was getting ready to do a psychology master's, and I knew I couldn't do the one that I wanted to long distance, and we weren't sure how long we were going to be in the UK and how long we were going to be in Barcelona for. And literally within probably about 5 minutes, I happened to look on Facebook, and somebody popped up that was a positive psychologist. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've never heard of that. That sounds amazing. Rather than focusing on what's wrong with people, I can focus on what's right with them. And I kind of started typing into the computer, and it said there were only 10 centers in the world that did this particular Masters of Science in positive psychology. And one of them was 30 minutes away from me, and I was just like, no way. And by this time it was September, and I was thinking, there's no way I'm going to get in. So I made the phone call on the Monday. By the Wednesday I had my interview, and on the Saturday I started.
Of course you did. The alignment again, see? Wow.
Absolute alignment. And do you know what? I literally, on my first day there, I sat there and I was like, oh my goodness, this is the science behind everything that I know to be true. You know, the law of attraction, quantum physics, all of that good stuff. And it was just like coming home. Wow. Just like coming home.
And you know what? It's not as I call it, it's not a secret society. It's actually, when it happens to you, then everyone that you know is in the same space.
Yes.
I realized that. You align yourself with positive thinking, then you align yourself with positive people, and it always like a chain-ball effect. And then your life starts, because people don't realize, and you know, you're the specialist and expert, everything that you're feeling actually starts to manifest itself. You know, they say you are what you think. And it's just that. And people don't realize you have to raise, and I'm all about that, raising the vibrations of life, that even if it is tough, it's still having this gratitude and this understanding. And it's almost like they say, you know, all these different analogies, when one door closes, another one opens. It's literally like that. Because the moment you're in that space, it starts bringing itself. The universe starts sharing and caring.
Definitely.
That's just
most definitely. And you know, the synchronicities, the coincidences, the, you know, whatever you wish to call them, they just keep coming thick and fast. And you know, even to the point of, I went through my masters, and you know, what I created on my masters is the practice that I use in the books, which had the massive difference to all of the book authors. There's 58 in 15 different countries. And it literally changes people's minds. Even those really horrific trauma-based memories can be switched and changed into an empowerment tool. And really that's what our books are about. It's about taking some of life's worst scenarios for individuals and giving ourselves the advice back to our younger self when we went through them, but also sharing them in such a way that other people can use them as their own blueprint to navigate whatever it is that they're going through at that moment in time. Because nothing happens in isolation. You know, it doesn't matter whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Nothing happens in isolation. And it's only the hindsight of time that allows us to go, that's the reason I needed to go through that.
And I have this thing, and it's not my quote: season, reason, or lifetime.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And people don't realize that. And it's hard when you're going through the season or the reason or a lifetime. And I can explain that in relationships. Sometimes people come in for that season, or they're teaching you something. And that's not only just personal relationships, boy, girl, boy, boy, girl, girl. It's just something you go, oh, that someone gave me a message or a change for me. Or actually, they're the kind of people I want to cancel. I don't want anyone like that around me. So people don't realize that things that you go through is all a learning curve. You touched on painful experiences. We've all had them, whatever they may be. And what happens with the painful experiences is the subconscious needs to be reshifted, or what do we do to change these patterns? They say 90 days you can change habits, but I'm talking real embedded things like abuse and, you know, sexual abuse and the things that you've had to deal with and you think are buried somewhere, but they manifest themselves in relationships and you never move forward. What do you do about those?
I mean, I've created a process called mind conditioning therapy, which helps individuals not only to navigate what they've gone through, but also from a mental perspective, because sorting it out here is one thing, but what tends to happen is when we've had an experience, we then get into a pattern. We make assumptions about that experience. So if you imagine right now that you've gone through something, it's an experience that gives a heightened emotion, i.e. your emotion goes through the roof for whatever reason, you're more likely to store that memory in such a way that you're going to recall it. The thing is with memories is people often think that their memories are like a video recording. You know, you literally go through an experience and you record it like a video. But our mind, our memories are really adaptable. And actually 50% of our memories quite often are lies. They're fabrications. They're based on the meaning that we've tagged to them at that moment in time. So if you think of a really bad relationship, for example, or your parents go through divorce when you're 5 years old. At 5 years old, you can't compute in the way that you would potentially as an adult. So you're going to use your 5-year-old brain to join the dots, to make a sense of meaning around what you're actually going through at that moment in time. Now, a 5-year-old's experience might be quite limited. So therefore, they're building that story based on the information that they've got at that moment in time. The problem comes that for most people, a lot of the repeating patterns that they have are still based on that 5-year-old experience. And every time we think back to a memory and we pull that memory out, we can add or take things away. So like I say, it's not just like a video camera. There's an amazing psychologist that I kind of researched quite heavily called Elizabeth Loftus in America, and she's known as the false memory implantation lady. She has been able to make people think that they've been lost in a mall, that they're allergic to eggs and alcohol. You know, my view is if she could do it with chocolate cake, she would have made millions, but obviously not. But she did a series of different experiments, and it's not like she's putting people into hypnosis. She's just utilizing the suggestibility of our memories and our brains. So she took two groups of individuals. This is just one experiment, and she showed them a very short clip of a car accident. And then she asked two separate groups almost identical questions, but she changed one word. So with one group, she said, how fast do you think the car was going when it hit the other car? And they said 34 miles an hour. With the other group, she said, how fast do you think the car's going when it smashed into the other car? So of course they thought more, just from the terminology. So they said 40 miles an hour. She brought them back a week later. She didn't show them the video again. And she asked the people in the hit group, was there smashed glass when the cars hit one another? 7% or 7 people said no, yes. And in the other group, she said, was there any smashed glass when the cars smashed into one another? 16 people said yes. Now, there was no broken glass at all, but our brain joins the dots. And for that particular one, they looked at the word smashed and they thought, well, smashed, of course there's got to be glass. So our brains then start to create our own stories. And this is the thing that I love is, for me, it's about identifying whatever it is that somebody's going through at this moment in time, finding the trigger memory and unraveling it and taking it apart and really understanding whether the connections that they've made, the joining of the dot that they've made, is actually their reality or a complete and utter fabrication.
Wow. So that's why people can't get ahead of themselves, basically.
Well, the other thing is 95% of the way that we act and behave is based on subconscious memory, and 95% of our subconscious memory is programmed and in there by the time we're 35. So that gives us 5% in order to be able to work with that memory, work with the conscious or subconscious to be able to change it in some way. And this is why so many people will do positive affirmations until they're blue in the face, but nothing's happening, because if the deep-seated belief in there is still the same, then it's like repeating something that their inner gut, their inner knowing knows isn't true.
So it's really unlocking that subconscious, isn't it?
Really unlocking that subconscious. And everybody has some form of trigger memory, unless it's a heritage pattern. So heritage patterns quite often show up. They're passed down the generation. So you might quite often see that if grandma got divorced at the age of 25, then the mother will get divorced at 25. Then it's more likely that the daughter will get divorced around that time, and that tends to be a heritage pattern playing out. And yes, I think science has now shown that up to 14 generations worth of stuff gets passed down. And we're not just talking DNA. So we're talking fear, beliefs, memories, all of those things are getting passed down the generations. So if you think back to 14 generations ago, what your ancestors were doing and the lives that they were potentially living and the hardships that they were up against, you can start to see some of these things playing out.
That is so powerful. And we call it in the Christian world generational curses sometimes, where things are just hanging on to you. But I'm a believer that, as I said, you are what you think. But because it's subconscious, it's not something that you think. So how do you then change it? Right now, there's a lot of things going on. I've seen friends, I notice on the news, people losing their jobs. These people have had very stable situations for years, and a climate, the pandemic came along and literally changed everyone's lives in a place that they never even dreamt of, because they were coasting around, living the lifestyle, living the as I say, the best life they could. And as much as they want to be positive, they're just looking at how and what they're going through.
Of course.
How can they change that and bring the positive things their way, even though the circumstance shows it's going to be very difficult, if you get what I mean?
Yes, I do. I do get what you mean. And I think this time more than ever before, this is, I think you set it up beautifully at the very beginning when you said that this has really been a period of coming, going within and actually looking at the lives that we have been living, because there will be lots of different emotions that kick in if you've worked damn hard to get where you're going, and through no fault of your own, because let's be honest, coronavirus isn't anybody's fault necessarily. You suddenly found your livelihood ripped out from underneath you. You're going to be experiencing lots of different emotions, fear, shame, guilt, even if you don't need to feel any of those things. And it would be easier, I think lots of people have done this, and it drives me insane when they go, well, just think positive. Actually, no, you can't just think positive, because every fibre of your being wants to feel angry, wants to feel rage, wants to feel upset, frustrated, and all of those things. And I think it's about, we've moved into a world where positivity is perceived to be the holy grail. And you would think, as a positive psychologist, I want everybody to be happy. But we have a whole range of emotions for a reason. And each one is valid. The only thing that I will say, that there are lower vibrational emotions like fear, like shame, like guilt, that we don't necessarily want to stay in for too long. But if you come around a corner and you meet a saber-toothed tiger, you want to feel fear. You don't want to suddenly look and go, oh, I love it. It's so, what a great thing, because I've never seen one before. No, you don't want to feel that. You want to go, oh my God, there's a saber-toothed tiger. I want adrenaline to course through my body. I want cortisol, the stress hormone. I want all of those things. I want my muscles to be firing, ready to run as far away as possible. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's about utilizing the emotions that we've got and actually honoring them. It's okay to feel frustrated. It's okay to feel sad. Many people are mourning the old life that they used to have. And, just going, oh, just be positive doesn't help anybody. They need to know that actually, do you know what? It's okay to mourn what you had. But what we don't want is for them to stay in those emotions for too long. Anger, I mean, anybody that knows me will know that I don't tend to get angry that often. But when I do, oh my goodness, I get so much done. Because I'm like charged, I'm doing. Anger for me is a really great doing emotion.
Interesting.
So I think it's about really taking each individual and going, do you know what, whatever you're feeling at this moment in time, the best thing that you can do is express it in such a way that it can share with others, so that, if you are feeling some of those lower vibrational energies, other people are aware of it and can support you during those times. But also in sharing those low vibrational kind of energies and emotions, that's how we boost resiliency. When we get those people around us that can support us, they're not trying to fix us, they're not trying to save us, they're just holding the space for us to navigate our own journey through whatever it is that we're going through. That's one of the best gifts you can be given.
Yeah. No, I think that's so powerful. I think it's being considerate, and it's also us being mindful of our people around us and checking in. It's very easy for us to make calls, but actually saying, are you okay? How are you today? And I'm here to talk if you want to offload, and it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to be scared. I think we spend a lot of time with pride and don't want to show emotion and show that we're having a bad day, but we're not always going to be bouncing around like sounds of music. It's never going to happen. We want to, but we're going to have moments. What's really powerful, you spoke about teaching people, we're talking in the corporate world, women, not saying we're ousting the men, because amazing men on the channel right now listening, but women, we tend to have a lot going on, mothers, wives, significant others, and then we're running businesses and we're corporate and we're breaking ceilings and all of that good stuff, and we have a lot of imposter syndrome that we suffer from in many occasions, which is awful, but we do. And we always want to sit in that feminine space but also push where needed, and it's that balance of our hormones telling us, come on, push or hold back, but at the same time getting results. And when we are a little bit bullish, we're seen as a little bit aggressive, which is a normal, assertive, motivational way, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I know I've seen the testimonies of women that you've literally looked at and changed their patterns, when now they're seeing things happen in their life that they ordinarily wouldn't have done on their own. And can you walk me through just a scenario, or, you know, mention the person's individual name, but a scenario which was a great achievement for you to change somebody from here to there?
I think the first thing to say is, my job isn't to change. You know, with the best will in the world, my job is to hold the safe container for other people. Whether you're a coach, psychologist, therapist, whatever, we are gifted the opportunity to walk hand in hand with whoever we're working with, to be able to hold that space so that they have some form of safe container for them to be able to make that transition by themselves, and, you know, obviously signpost for them along the way what might do to help them. I want to give you an example, and actually it's not a client example because obviously client confidentiality, etc. But I just wanted to kind of share with you how you can change somebody's life, you know, so simply. And it wasn't something that I planned. It wasn't something that I was going to do. But I was traveling back to Barcelona after doing a speaking gig here in the UK. And I was on the train, the Heathrow Express. And there was one seat spare next to me, and some woman came along and sat next to me, and we got talking because she was flying back to, I think it was Hong Kong or China. And she was asking, well, what is it that you do? And I was explaining mind conditioning therapy, and I'd explained that we'd just launched one of our books, and I was sharing one of our authors' stories, and it's in the book, so I'm not breaking any confidence. And it was a lovely lady called Debbie Moore, and Debbie Moore had gone out one day with her sister shopping and met her partner of several years coming in the opposite direction with another woman. And what unfolded was the fact that this gentleman had been leading a double life, and she had no idea at all. The other woman had no idea. She had no idea. So I was explaining this to this woman, and all of a sudden she just burst into tears. And I was just like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And she said, well, I said that I was over from China, but what I failed to say was that the reason that I'm here is we found out 2 weeks ago that my father had been living a double life for the last 20 years and had a separate family in a different country that we knew nothing about. And my mother was so ashamed and so embarrassed because she feels that nobody else has ever gone through an experience like this. And the reason she was crying so much was she knew she could go back, she could buy the book, she could show it to her mum, and it would change her life. And I gave her a business card. It gives me goosebumps even thinking about it. I gave her a business card, and within a week she messaged me to say thank you so much. Mum's doing really well. She, you know, she's working through her guilt and her shame and embarrassment, even though it wasn't hers to own. And she feels empowered. And obviously that's not a direct necessarily work that I've done with a client, but I think it just demonstrates that we just never know when our time and what we say will change somebody else's life for the better. And
someone just said that's a lovely story. It is. It's, you don't realize the impact that you have as you just go along your day. Obviously you're an expert and you have the skill set, but you took the time. You could have easily been on your computer or getting organized for whatever your next day looked like. But you took that time to talk with her, and you left something with her that she was able to then pass on to her family member that went through an experience like what you was able to heal her from. Yeah. Now that's powerful, isn't it?
And it just goes to show that those pivotal moments, even if what we've constructed around them as a memory, whether that's correct or incorrect, when we share those pivotal moments with other people, we have the ability to help them. Because most people, when they go through something that would be considered negative, they try and keep it in because they're embarrassed, they feel ashamed. I mean, one of our authors, bless her, Debbie Montgomery Johnson in the States, her story, she lost over $1 million in an internet dating scam. And she'd kept that in for so long. And when she finally did start talking, all of these people kept coming up and saying, me too. It was 50,000 for me. It was 100,000. And she now works for an organization out of Florida called SCARS, where, you know, they're out there, you know, educating people on this. Yeah. Now, something that embarrassed her changed her life. Absolutely changed her life. So a lot of stories and a lot of beliefs and a lot of memories that we have actually can be shifted and changed to become an empowerment tool rather than something that disempowers us.
It's really powerful you say this. You know, I speak about Oprah Winfrey, her story, her pain. She then became and changed people who was able to then share, because that was an Oprah Winfrey show. It was all about people talking about, there would be celebrities, but everyday people sharing their experiences of triumphing, of becoming better. And I think people need to, as you said, acknowledge the fact pain is actually part of the process to conviction. You know, they say diamonds, you know, they say pressure makes diamonds. It's exactly that. You have to have gone through that level of something to blossom. Am I right?
I think you can see the dramatic difference when you've gone through something that might be perceived as quite difficult. You know, I can't tell you how many of our authors go, well, I've got nothing to share. I've got, you know, I've not had, you know, I didn't have a bad upbringing. But, you know, they went through parents of divorce, or, you know, they too, you know, lost somebody that they loved, or all of those things. Yes, they might be considered everyday normal things that are happening to thousands and thousands of people out there each and every day, but it's their perception of it and the way that they share their story. Nobody's story is alike. You could have two people watch the same experience happen out in front of them, and they will both see something completely different because of the way that they think, because of their life experience, because of the rods and cones at the back of their eyes. They will perceive things differently. And I think, you know, when we realize that our competitive edge, what makes us beautifully unique, is all of the experiences that we've gone through, in the order that we've gone through them, in the way that we've gone through them, in the way that we've perceived what we've gone through. That's what makes us beautifully, beautifully unique. Absolutely unique.
I love that, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, how powerful is that? And this is what people are so busy keeping up with the Joneses, thinking that they need to be better than that person. Even on this platform we call Instagram and socials, nobody really knows what's going on behind the closed doors when we're having an argument with the other half, when the kids are running around and breaking out in spots, which happened to me, and you're sick and all the rest of the stuff that happens. They just see the glamour, but everyone's going through something. It's just people have poker faces and share it differently. And it doesn't mean because they're not sharing it, they're not going through it.
And it's time to remove the masks. It's time to say, do you know what? Not that we want everybody to go, oh, woe is me. Yeah. Life's so difficult. Yeah. But do you know what? It's in the sharing of these experiences that we can bolster each other. You know, we can ask people, well, how did you navigate it? You know, they gather information that we can utilize in our own stories. And to know that everybody goes through the same thing. It doesn't matter. You know, I've got clients that are multimillionaires. I've got clients that are not multimillionaires. They don't go through totally different things. They go through the same thing, but in slightly different ways. And you know, you can't just look at Instagram and the beautifulness and, you know, and not know that behind this is you know, behind this could be somebody that's suffering in some way, shape or form. You know, one of my, I was going to say, go ahead.
Yeah, Charlene, just sorry to cut you, vocalist, she said, just posted about this on Facebook, loving this conversation. So she's really getting a lot from this. Thank you, Charlene. Thank you. After you, after you.
I was going to say, you know, there's one particular lady that I absolutely adore, an English lady called Mrs. Hinch, because she shares these gorgeous cleaning tips.
Oh, wow.
And I love
Really?
I love to clean because I find it a really great stress relief.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
she is very forward in saying, do you know what? Actually, I also suffer with anxiety. I also suffer with times of not wanting to be in the spotlight. And I think that's what I love so much about her, this realness, this raw going, do you know what? It's not all of the glamour that you see. There are other bits that sit behind it. And you look at all the superstars that come out and go, do you know what? Actually, I've suffered with depression or anxiety or lack of confidence, or I've gone through this experience. We are all going through our own experiences, and you know, nobody's is more important than anybody else's. Ours is always the most important because it's happening to us. But there are ways that you can navigate these experiences and take the gold that sit behind it and utilize it for something good.
And what can people, like, I have little things that I do. I pray. Some people meditate. I do affirmations, but now I'm thinking, my subconscious mind still moving it along. But I must say, I do feel a lot of things that I speak happen, even more when I'm in a certain space, and I can't align on what it is. But I realize, I go, that's not a coincidence. That happened. That's happened. That ring, that call, that opportunity. So it's keeping, as you said, that vibration high. But that's what I do. What do you think would be good for the listeners to try and practice? Is there practicing? Is things that you do on a daily basis, or do you just take things every day as it comes? What things can make change of sorts? It's really hard because everyone's different, you know.
Everybody is different.
Yeah.
And you know, I've heard people go, oh, you know, do a gratitude journal every day. Well, the science behind gratitude journals is that it can give great benefits: immunity, health, depression, anxiety. But if it becomes a chore, then actually it has more detrimental effects than it does a positive effect. One of the things that I use in mind conditioning therapy is a process called expressive writing. And I'll share this with your audience because they can go and do this themselves. Expressive writing was devised by a gentleman called Penny Baker. And he did an experiment that he took individuals that had gone through a traumatic experience, and he asked them to write about that experience for 15 minutes a day for 4 days. And he asked them just to let their emotions go, not worry about grammar, punctuation, you know, full stops, capital letters, any of those things, but just to literally write things down, talk about the trauma, you know, describe it, do whatever they felt was necessary in their writing. And they wrote for 15 minutes. He did it with students to start off with. And what they discovered is, for those students that wrote in that way, as opposed to the students that just wrote about anything, they found that they went to the infirmary less, they did better on their, you know, on their scores, etc. And they've since done studies on losing your job, on cancer treatment, on going through divorce. And what they found is, not only does it boost the immune system, it also reduces stress and anxiety. In some places it can reduce depression, but it's a great way to get those emotions out. And sometimes when you write, you might find yourself being emotional, but in a safe container where you're not having to necessarily verbalize it, because sometimes you can't. Sometimes you just can't say those things. So I'm a great advocate of journaling, and it doesn't matter whether you're doing expressive writing in that particular way, or whether you're getting this stuff out of your head and onto paper, because most people are in this. And when we're in this, it goes round and round and round, especially if something negative's happening. And what happens is we go down and down and down until we hit what I call the energy space of nurture, which is normally when you've hit rock bottom. And there's 3 different spaces of nurture. One is top up, one is overwhelm and exhaustion, and one is what I call the cave. But if we don't express ourselves, and especially for men, I know you've got some men watching, men have been taught from a very young age that they have to man up and that there's certain emotions that are out of bounds to them. Where do these go? if they're stuffed down and they're pushed down, at some point in time they come out, and they normally come out like a pressure cooker, where they just go, or they end up with a midlife crisis that many people talk about.
A 70-year-old with a Porsche.
Exactly.
And a boobed woman. It's true, it's true. That's so
laying
funny.
over the car. So yeah.
Yeah, with a ribbon. No, you're right. And I think, you know, you touched on something really powerful, not to home in, but suicide amongst men is the highest that it's ever been. And because of the fact that they're taught to be manly, they're taught they can't express. You're right. We talk, you know, all the time, crying about this, getting your hair done and talking as girls. And yeah. But men don't have that outlet. It's not seen to be speaking. And, you know, they go to barbershops and things like that and man gatherings, but you see them still man up. So they have no one to talk to. And I think it's really important to be vulnerable. You said that. Be vulnerable.
It is interesting because in my degree, I did a paper on, are women more emotional than men? And I started off from the female perspective of, you know, well, why do they keep saying we're more emotional? And I was on a train journey with my son, who at the time was 8, and he's an empath. He feels other people's emotions. He's very in touch with what he does feel and what he can feel from other people. And I asked him the question, and I said, do you think that girls are more emotional than boys? And I was expecting a totally different answer than the one I got. And he goes, yes, mummy, definitely. And I said, oh, okay, why is that? And he goes, well, boys aren't allowed to have all the emotions. And I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, if I hurt myself in the playing field, the boys all tell me to man up. So I can't cry. Also, the films that I watch, now they were watching age-appropriate films, always show the boys going to their bedroom to cry by themselves. And he said, so therefore, boys aren't allowed to show sadness. And it literally changed my paper on its head, because it was just like, when I did the research, boy babies were more emotional than girl babies, but through conditioning, they had certain emotions totally taken out of their database because they weren't perceived to be manly enough. They weren't perceived to be what boys or men should be using or doing. And I think this is just an absolute shame, you know?
It is. It is, because it's a normal emotion to feel. And you're right. If it's not being released, where does it go? It's going to, as you said, deep buried into the subconscious, and then it comes out in different variants in relationships, in the work. You know, you sit and watch, and I'm sure you've looked after a lot of high-powered women, and I've sat in boardrooms, and you see the men literally manning each other against each other. It's like, guys, really? But they're built that way. They've got to stand firm and throw you under the bus, and then throw the other one under the bus. And we're like, where did you get anywhere? You actually just made each other feel really bad, if I be honest. If you was to soften that a little bit, you'd be surprised what might come up.
And also this camaraderie of, do you know what, actually, yeah, it's okay. I mean, I think women, although, you know, we always get the women that want to tear other women down, but I think women are pretty good at kind of holding this vessel, this safe space for other people, just, you know, other women to express themselves. They're not trying to fix, they're not trying to solve, but they just allow them to have the rage or the anger or the frustration and the tears and all of those things. But I just think it's really, really hard. And I think people like Prince Harry and various others that have stepped forward and said, do you know what, actually, no, I need to step forward and I need to say something and I need to talk about this, has kind of opened up the doorway for other people to think that it's okay.
And you mentioned that earlier on in our conversation. I think the more we speak about it, people then realize that everyone's going through different variations. And there's so many safe spaces, so psychological safety, I call it, for us as women. And I think now more and more, like you said with Harry and even William and HRH, I must add, are now talking openly about how it affected them when they lost their mother and how it continuously keeps affecting them. So it enables people then to go, oh, I felt like this because of this. So I think now more, as you explained, than ever, there are opportunities for men to share, for us to care. it's up to us as well in relationships and friendships to actually ask, are you okay? And do you want to talk about anything, or do you want to vent? I think we can easily think because the person's smiling, they're okay. Yeah. And I said they have a sheen that maybe they're not. So we have to be more aware, would you say, of our environment and people?
I think so. I also think that right now is quite a difficult time for a lot of people. You know, they're navigating, and I hate the word, so I'm not going to, a new normal. I'm not going to use that because it's not
going to use that.
Nothing is normal at this moment in time. But everybody's navigating this in different ways. You know, some days, you know, at the beginning of lockdown, it was great because I got quality time with my family. My dad was staying. It was great. But then there were days that I'd wake up and I'd just be feeling like the bottom had just dropped out of my world. And, you know, I'm somebody that quote unquote knows what they're doing, and even still, and it's just like, okay, I'm just going to sit and be present with these emotions. I'm just going to feel into these emotions and see where they take me, and understand why I'm feeling this way, and question some of the feelings that I'm feeling. But, you know, for those that maybe didn't have family and friends around them, for those that aren't able to think potentially in that way, it can be quite a difficult situation.
Yeah. No, you're completely right. I think we underestimate this year, what we've gone through, as you said, the positives of being with family, but just the unknown. I think it's the uncertainty. I think we're designed to have a control of us. And suddenly we had none. We was told when we can go and eat. We was told we can go out. We were told we got to wear masks. But suddenly we was out of control. And I find that was difficult. I think we are used to steering our own ship. And suddenly we wasn't able to do that in its entirety. Yeah. And I think that was uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I think so.
But it can also be a phenomenal opportunity. It's a phenomenal opportunity to sit back and go, do you know what is most important to me right now? What is it that I really want? You know, for those people that are doing the 2 or 3 hour commute, that aren't seeing their families, you know, I know for many people that I've spoken to, it's made them go, do you know what? There has to be more to life than what I'm going through. And if nothing else, if that's the awakening that you take from this and go, do you know what? I only have one life to live. Restrictions, I'm not saying is a good thing at all, because quite frankly, don't even get me started on that. But
that's a whole nother line.
Start getting political. We don't want to do that. But when something's taken away from you, you realize how much you valued it. So when you're sick, you realize how much you value health. When your freedom is taken away, you realize what freedom means to you, you know. And I think we could kind of, I'm not saying to think positive, because, you know, everybody's dealing with this in their own way, but I think we can turn this on its head and go, do you know what does this space right now give me? What does it give me to rewrite? I don't have to carry on the life that I'm living if I don't want to. If now isn't a good time to do it, when is?
When was it? Yeah. I think that is so powerful, ladies and gentlemen. I think in this season, it's now time for stillness. It was been time to reevaluate. And you're right, we've never had this space before. Never had so long at home, never had so long pontification, never. No. And you're right. If there's one thing I took for granted, was health. You just think, I'm okay. You take vitamins. But it was something that we was thinking about all the time, watching the news. And now more than ever, all the running around and all the late nights and the burnouts that I'm feeling, it means nothing without my health.
No. So get outside, put yourself in the sunshine, eat good food, exercise our body. You know, I can't tell you, and I'll be the first to put my hand up. I've just started doing Qigong on a regular basis. But, you know, our bodies aren't meant to just sit and do nothing. No. You know, no. I'm 48 and I can feel my joints seizing up. That's not meant to happen. You know, I'm sharing a bit more information than you probably need to know right now.
It's okay, but beautiful, I must add, beautiful and looking amazing.
Thank you. But
you're welcome.
We need to use this time as a great awakening and go, do you know what? Who do I want to be moving forward? What do I want to stand for? How do I want to live my life? What kind of life do I want to create for those people that I love and are in my, you know, in my vicinity? And when we come from that place of, do you know what? This is an opportunity to change things for the way that we want them changed, whether that's political or unpolitical, we all have a choice. And when we realize that choice is like one of the biggest gifts that we have, you know, I'm just trying to think, Viktor Frankl, you know, being in the center of a concentration camp, the choice that he had was to utilize this and to think in a way that was, you know, supporting him in the place that he was, rather than, oh my God, there's nothing else I can do. Yes, there wasn't anything that he could do, but he still had control of that, and nothing was going to get through that. So utilize the choice that you have right now. You can choose how the next half of your life goes moving forward. So choose wisely is all I'd say. Choose wisely.
I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, I love that. And I think, you know, I'm sad that I'm going to have to say goodbye very soon. But what I got, the takeaways I got, is utilizing the time to change, to make things different, better, good, whatever that may be, is not to be hard on yourself if you have a moment. Yeah. Not to say, oh, let's be positive, but let's just take in the space that we're in and work through. And you're right, utilizing this time, as I said, we're never going to get it back, and not being hard on yourself through the journey that we've got and the rest of the life that we have ahead of us.
And we can literally take what we've got if we don't like it, and we can crumple it into a ball, and we can throw it away and go, right, what am I going to go for now? And at the beginning of this year, my whole business changed. I literally was probably one of the last conferences. My conference attendees flew back to Australia and Poland, etc. They went straight into quarantine. Will I do conferences again? Possibly, but not in the way that I'm going to do them. So everything that I had planned for this year and next year all flew out the window. And it's just like, and the biggest problem is when you move into resistance and you go, no, that's not going to happen. I've got control. I'm going to do it. Actually, yes, it has happened. And yes, it did mean me taking a step back and going, do you know what? How do I want to live my life? You know, do I want to be away from my kids all this time to do a conference? Do I want to invest a whole year doing something like that? Or do I want to maybe speak at somebody else's conference where I haven't got the hassle? So don't move into resistance. Give yourself the space just to be, and just to be open to possibility. You have a choice.
I love that. And it's been such a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
It's made me stop and think, and I need to get better. I think we all, even people listening, I think we need to really take that time, not be so hard on ourselves. You know, you mentioned burnout. A lot of people, even in this season, have been really busy because they've been stressing about doing this and changing things. But just letting it be and being okay if it's not like we run out of opportunities. Is what people think. You know, I can't do that. That didn't happen, so let me try. Keep trying. Life is about change and new challenges and new opportunities, isn't it?
Yeah. And often when we move into that kind of things aren't working out, we're burning out, etc., what tends to happen is people's natural thought processes, well, I must work harder, I must push further, I must go. But actually it's the complete and utter reverse. And anybody that's worked with me will know that I just go, stop. You're in nurture, stop. Because you can't think your way out of this when your brain is just going like this. You need to have the space, and your brain can't have the space if you're constantly on the go. So stop. I'm giving you permission to watch Netflix and just chill. Obviously not the whole time, but just to take some time out. Go walk in nature. You know, just don't think for a while. Just give yourself the space.
And where can they find, they want to keep in touch, be involved, where can they find you?
So Instagram, Kezia Luckett on Instagram, and also on Facebook, Kezia Luckett, or on LinkedIn. And they can also go to my website, kezialuckett.com. So I'd love to see.
It's been such a pleasure to have you today. And it's really, as I said, given me food for thought. I'm pretty sure everyone that's been listening, I know they've taken some amazing gems from you today. And I wish you all the best. And I'm definitely going to do a swipe up to your book because I'm really excited about that. I want to hear.
Thank you.
I've got a few things that you look back and go, what would be the conversation to my younger self. I think we've all done that.
Well, one thing that I will say about the book is if you buy the book,
yeah,
you have to pay it forward. So at the front of the book is a message box. Write your little message in. For a complete and utter stranger, put a post-it note on the front that says, this book is for you, read it, love it, pay it forward, and then leave the book for a stranger to find. Now obviously it's a little bit more difficult now with COVID, or pay it forward to a friend, because our mission is to impact on 1 billion lives worldwide. So the more you can pay it forward, the more chances we have of people reading it and their lives being changed.
I'll definitely do that, and that's been a pleasure, and sending you love, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you